Should you buy The Outer Worlds in 2022? The Outer Worlds was developed by the same developers that did Fallout New Vegas. I haven't played Fallout New Vegas, but if The Outer Worlds is anything like Fallout New Vegas, I may just have to hop into it because I really enjoyed Outer Worlds, but it's not flawless. We'll be talking story and gameplay with no spoilers except for like a couple of late game locations, and The Outer Worlds is on Game Pass, guys, so if you are an Xbox player or a PC player, there's no harm in downloading it and giving it a shot yourself. That's my recommendation. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. Let's get into this, fellas. Sorry for the lack of uploads for the last 2 weeks. I've been very ill. I still am a little bit, but I'm back. Hopefully we can stay consistent. Thank you for all the support. I've read your comments. You're wonderful. Anyway, for the new viewers, let's get into it, but everyone else, really appreciate it. Now, The Outer Worlds is an RPG, so the story can play out in a few different ways. Well, in this case, a bunch of different ways, depending on what allies you come across, who you choose to side with, and who you choose to kill, betray, etc. This is a proper RPG. You can actually go the entire game killing everything you see with no game over screen or any of that bullshit. You play how you want to play and be who you want to be, and it's really nice to play a proper RPG for once. Because of that, it's very difficult to talk about the story without spoiling anything, but I'll give it my best shot. Your character is in some sort of cryo-sleep at the start of the game. A man called Phineas Wells brings you back out of that sleep and tasks you with reviving various other people who could potentially save the planet you're surrounded by. I know it's not very in-depth, but a lot of The Outer Worlds is a mystery. That mystery is the driving force to keep you playing from a narrative point of view, and I think it really works. You meet various factions throughout the story with their own unique faction quests, which have multiple endings depending on how you choose to tackle them, and the characters you decide to trust. All of these factions are written pretty well. You understand their motivations, but also why they fail, until you magically appear and, you can make the magical issues disappear. You're that kind of character. You're the guy that turns up and you can decide whether you want to help someone or you want to ruin their entire lives, as well as hundreds of other people. It's one of those kinds of stories. Well, RPGs, not stories. Characters themselves are written pretty well too, but some definitely get more care in the writing room. The villains of the story, as there really is only one big bad throughout the game unless you decide you want to be the big bad, are written pretty poorly, in my opinion. Okay, this is just my opinion. Check out other reviews other than mine. Now, this is subjective, like I just said, but I feel like the writers went down a slightly basic route for the villains of the story. It's your classic "we don't care what you have to say because we know better" routine, and we are morally right despite the fact we haven't even listened to you. It's one of those villains that just pisses you off because there's no logical reason for you to have to fight them, essentially. I mean, there is a point in the game where you can talk to them, but at that point, I don't think it really would make much of a difference, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of different endings for this game. This may be different in every playthrough, but that's what I got from it. Maybe I just checked my phone at the wrong time when something happened with them to make them slightly more interesting, but overall, I wasn't that intrigued by the big bad, so my next playthrough, I'm probably going to go full villain and murder everyone, because I got a taste of it at the start of the game. The first place you get spawned on, essentially, you can wipe everyone out, and I think I did. I think I left a few people alive. That was just by accident. They just attacked me out of nowhere. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna shoot you, and then all of a sudden the entire town's on me, and then I've just murdered everyone. It was kind of enlightening. Maybe I should just replay the game. The Outer Worlds really is one of those games that you have to play knowing almost nothing about it. I think that's the best way to experience it, but with that being said, there is a negative here, and that's length. I completed The Outer Worlds in about 12 hours, and that's with doing a fair few side missions as well. The Outer Worlds is incredibly short for an RPG. When I got that pop-up saying that this was the final mission, I was more confused, if anything. I thought, okay, maybe this is just the halfway point of the story, maybe there's a different map area with different planets, or it's just a trick just to get you, whoa, that's the end, oh my god. But no, The Outer Worlds really is about 12 hours long, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I have mentioned in other reviews that I really dislike games that are overly long without justifying it, through changes in the gameplay loop or with a story that needs to be that long, so the length for me isn't a true negative for me. It's more of a, I wish it was longer, but I'm really happy with what I played during those 12 hours, so I'm mentioning this for you guys. If you're one of those people that wants that 50-hour epic story RPG, The Outer Worlds isn't that. This is a very short, confined streamlined RPG that somehow manages to branch out and not lose any quality. It's really impressive how they manage that, but that's just my opinion. The Outer Worlds is a short, well-crafted RPG where you can really make your own stories within the boundaries of the actual story that's been written. If that sounds like your kind of thing, then continue on with the gameplay section, but if not, then the Outer Worlds probably isn't what you're looking for right now. But maybe in a few months or years when you're looking for something new or something well-crafted that's quite short and is an RPG, you've got the Outer Worlds here. Now let's get into the gameplay. I'm so sorry about my voice. Maybe you like it, I don't know, but my throat's killing. I'm doing this in one sitting. If you're enjoying this video, smash that like button and consider sticking around by subscribing. Leave some game suggestions down below. Cheers, guys. Once again, thank you for the support. The Outer Worlds gameplay is awesome. Not the best FPS gameplay I've ever experienced, but it's pretty damn good. I prefer it a lot more when compared to the likes of Fallout 4 and other FPS, RPG, open world games, sorry. I think that's what really kept me playing, because there is a lot here to discuss. First of all, we have our allies. You can bring 2 allies with you, and each with their own abilities varying from more damage or stuns, all of that stuff, and it's pretty good. It's not particularly in depth. You only have a limited amount of customization for them, and you can't change their abilities, but it's serviceable, especially for a 12-hour game. Customization for your character, however, is brilliant. You get a load of choices when you boot up the Outer Worlds, and if you have ever played a Fallout game, you know what to expect. You earn perk points throughout the game that you can put into specific skills, improving your damage output or hacking ability, etc. It's really good, and everything feels quite important, especially your dialogue options. The dialogue options are incredibly important when it comes to late game stuff, which can seriously affect the outcome you can get. You can customize your outfits, etc. with different armor and stasis effects, along with customization offering different barrels, sights, and ammunition. The different ammunition was easily my favorite bit, since you can get corrosive rounds, which basically means you're firing acid bullets, which is awesome. It sounds awesome, it feels awesome, but different enemies require different kinds of ammunition, so it's always good to have a few weapons in your inventory with different ammunition types, so you're ready for any enemy. Side missions are pretty good. A lot of them do turn into fetch quests sometimes, but I just didn't find that particularly bothersome, since these missions send you to different planets that you can explore. So despite the fact you're fetching things, you naturally explore the rest of the planet, so it's cool. But don't get it twisted, these planets aren't huge. In fact, they're quite small. Everything has to be in walking distance since there's no vehicles to use, so it's clear the developers wanted to respect your time. There is almost no downtime, you are constantly moving forward, and I really enjoyed that. This isn't No Man's Sky, and it's not Starfield before Starfield. Maps, very small, very confined, very clear in what exists on these maps, and they've clearly been handcrafted, which is nice to say. Main missions are pretty damn cool and can play out in a bunch of different ways, so I can't speak on all of the outcomes, but from what I played, all of them were pretty damn great. However, they get slightly repetitive due to the limit in the gameplay loop. You'll find yourself running to an area, shooting a bunch of enemies, doing some puzzles, and then getting a large amount of XP that just makes you feel like a sexy bastard. AI is okay. They are pretty relentless most of the time, so if you haven't been upgrading your weapons or levels, they will stomp on your corpse, but as long as you keep leveling up, you will be fine. One thing I did find odd was there was no level indicators on the missions. I looked for them, but I just couldn't find any, which was really odd, but I had one time where I felt very under-leveled. But I could easily counter it using a bit of cheese against the AI. It's just a weird choice. But hey, I didn't mind it that much. It would have been nice to have some level indicators, so I didn't walk into a mission and spend half an hour killing one enemy, you know. Variety of ammunition means variety of weapons, and yeah, there is a lot of weapons. Miniguns, flamethrowers, snipers, shotguns, pistols, automatic pistols, revolvers, SMGs, among many others. However, you get one gun in each category with different damage outputs, which is unfortunate, but once again, this is a 12-hour game. There is more than enough to entertain you for 12 hours. If it was a 50-hour game, then yeah, I'd be a lot more critical of this, but it's not. It's a 12-hour game, you know. It's slightly longer than, you know, The Last of Us or something. For an RPG, that's very short, but as I've said, I don't think it's a bad thing. All in all, The Outer Worlds is one of the best RPGs I've played in a long time, and has kind of rekindled my hope for RPGs in general. I've kind of got tired of the half-assed RPGs. Oh, look at me, I'm an RPG, you got an armor system, ooh, shut the fuck up. You're not an RPG, okay, you're not an RPG. This is an RPG. Anyway, I really hope the sequel builds on everything Obsidian has made here, and I really do think you should buy The Outer Worlds if you're an RPG fan, and absolutely give it a shot if you have Xbox Game Pass. Thank you for watching.